Okay, let's learn. Kum Len and Abak Gemara. We are up to the Yud Tesam Aleph, and we're discussing an argument as to the Megillus Tainus, whether it still continues or not. Megillus Tainus was a scroll that it contained all the fast days and the Yom Tevim that they had, and all those Yom Tevim, you're not permitted to fast or eulogize on those days. And we explained that even and the machlekes whether.
So can I just ask?
Yeah.
What is an example of a Yom Tov that they would have recorded in Megillus Tainus?
Hanukkah and Purim.
Okay.
Not so much Purim, sorry, not Purim. Hanukkah. Purim is in Megillah. Hanukkah. And we're saying here that even those who say that Megillah was canceled, but Hanukkah remains on because it already is universal and it has a mitzvah of lighting candles. So therefore remains on. So basically we had Rav and Chanina said that it's all been canceled, and Rabbi Yochanan Shimon Levi says that it was not canceled. And we see that the fast days during the Beis Hamikdash, second Beis Hamikdash, all Yom Tov, Tisha 12 and all that, but now it's back into a fast day. Okay. And then we asked, so why adding? How can we find that we had a few more Yom Tov? We canceled even the original ones. And we said, we spoke about a Yom Tov that they stopped using Hashem's name on all the contracts. So how can they do that? So we said that happened in the times of the Beis Hamikdash when Megillus Tainus was still going strong. So then we asked the question. So then that's the day that Gedalia, Tzem Gedalia, the third day of Tishrei, is what that happened. And the third day of Tishrei was a Yom Tov at that time anyway, because Tzem Gedalia. So why do you have to make a separate Yom Tov? So we said by including this the Yom Tov that they enacted, not only have to celebrate that day, but the day prior, you're not allowed to fast as well. So we asked the day prior is the day after Rosh Chodesh. And we said that any day which is Mahatorah, we didn't have to ban the day before the day after from fasting, because they would treat the day of Yom Tov itself anyway properly because it's Mahatorah. It's only those Yom Tov which are Rabbanon that we decided to add. Also Chizik, we added the day before as well, you shouldn't fast, the day after as well, you shouldn't fast. So we're up to the Gemara here. It's about 10 lines into the page. We're still talking about the Yom Tov of the third day of Tishrei when they stopped writing this contract. It says they stopped putting Hashem's name into their ordinary contracts, and they would toss it away, and it would be a bizoyan, an insult to Hashem's name. But typically, why don't we say the Havale Yom Shalifne Yom Shener Gedai Menachikim? Why don't we just say that this is the day? Okay, Tzem Gedai Yitzel now is a Yom Tov, and this is the day before that, and therefore it's all anyway. You couldn't fast. Amar Rabashi. Rabashi said. Rabashi said that Gedalia ben Achikim Divri Kabbalah, the Divri Kabbalah Divri Torah. In other words, you're saying that the reason why they added this day on the third of Tishrei is because we also wanted to ban the day before, but isn't the day of fasting, isn't the day before banned anyway because of Tzem Gedalia? So we answer, because Gedalia is in Tanakh, is Divri Kabbalah, and since Gedalia is Divri Kabbalah, we have a rule that Divri Kabbalah ke Divri Torah. That the words of Kabbalah are like the words of Torah, and so anything in Tanakh is like Torah, and therefore it doesn't need chizuk. So Tzem Gedalia is a Yom Tov, but the day prior, there's no need to turn it into a Yom Tov. You're not allowed to fast because people would treat Tzem Gedalia properly anyway. In the times of the Beis Hamikdash was a Yom Tov. Therefore, we added this additional Yom Tov about they stopped using Hashem's name in their star. So therefore, the day prior, they would not be able to fast anyway. And the Ritva asked a question, so it doesn't really answer it. That is, isn't it the day after Rosh Hashana? And he says there that Rosh Hashana is Mahatorah, so you don't need to aser the day after either. Just like we say, you don't have to aser the day before. This expression it says here that Divrei Kabbalah ke Divrei Torah is actually not just some words, but in halacha as well. In Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Tov Reish Tzadik Zayin Hichos Purim, the Beis Yosef says a fascinating thing. We know that an oinen, somebody who parents passed away, is not allowed to eat meat, drink wine. But he says there, even though it's in the Torah, it's in the Torah. It says there that on Purim, they're allowed to have Sudas Purim. Why? Because Osi Asay the Rabbim the Raisa and Doiche Asay the Yachid. In other words, since Purim is a mitzvah for the community, it pushes away that the mitzvah that an oinen shouldn't eat meat. And he adds, and Purim is Divrei Kabbalah ke Divrei Torah. We treat Purim like it's Mahatorah. because it comes from Tanakh, Megillas Esther. So it's like Mahatera, and it overrides an Issa in the Torah itself. So that's how far we take Divrei Kabbalah with Torah. Not everyone agrees to take it that far. That's what the Beis Yosef says there. There's a big argument about Tveria. If you don't know which day it's Purim, how should be Machmir and read both days. We're talking about, we'll see, Megillah, the city has walls around them. If you're a Mesupik, what do you do? If it's a Safek Mahatera, you should always be Machmir. We'll see that the Moshe Shem don't hold that. But that's what the Beis Yosef paskins, and it comes from right here. That Divrei Kabbalah ke Divrei Torah dami. That the words of Kabbalah have the same thing. So from Algmar, you don't have to say that means literally Matar. It means that people accept it like the Torah, and therefore there's no need to add chizuk, there's no need to add another day and say, the day before Tzom Gedalia, you're not allowed to fast because of because Tzom Gedalia is a Yom Tov in time Beis Hamikdash. And we say you don't have to do that because people treat it like the Divrei Torah. So then the Gemara here can take it, people treat it that way. But she also takes it further, that's Takira Halacha. Second one, further, most of it by Masna. I'll ask another question about another Yom Tov that came along. Here you have a few examples of Tabim that were included. We'll see in your time some others. The Esim B'Tamnaya on the 28th day, us is the sort of the 20th day came this wonderful news to the Eden, the Loya Eden, where I said they're no longer separated from the Torah. We're talking about the 24th day of the 28th day of Adar. 28th day of Adar came this wonderful news. They no longer have to be separated from the Torah. What do you mean? Shegazra Malchuk Zayda came along the government and decreed Shalayasku B'Torah, they should no longer learn Torah, Shalayamayos B'Neim, they cannot circumcise their children, Ushi Chalu Shabbos, and they should be Machal Shabbos. Ma also Yehuda ben Shamua v'Chaver. What did Yehuda ben Shamua and his friends do? It was this terrible decree issued by the Roman government. What should they do? They went to the senator, they went to this aristocrat and this woman, and they asked her advice. What should we do? And she was a hostess, and she had parties at a place, and all the great people, the luminaries of Rome, would spend time with her. This is what she said. Very interesting what she said. Boy will come, I want you to lead a protest movement at night outside in front of my house and shout and scream and march and protest. This is the first organized protest group as far as we know. They went, and they led a protest at night. This is what they chanted. Ishamayim. They said, for the heaven, please, for God's sake. They turned to the Romans. You're Esau's children, aren't we brothers? Don't we all share the same father? Yitzchak, and we all have the same mother, Rivka. Not like Yishmael that had a different mother, but you and Esau and us, we're the same father, same mother. Why in the world? Why in the world are we different than any other nation? Why is it that you guys are anti-Semitic and you've made all these decrees only against us? We're family. And they were so moved by these prayers, they canceled these decrees. That day they made a Yom Tov. That was the 28th day of Adar. They made another Yom Tov. So this is another day that was added to the Megillah's Tainus. Now the question is, and if you are of the opinion, like Rav said, that Botla Megillah's Tainus, if you are of the opinion that Rav and opinion that said that the Megillah's Tainus was canceled, so my question is very simple. They canceled the old Yom Tovim. We're adding new Yom Tovim. What are you adding new Yom Tovim for? Within the old ones are gone. You can try to answer me the same thing before. This is talking about the times of the Beis Hamikdash when they still followed that Megillah's Tainus and they had all these Yom Tovim, so we added another Yom Tov. No, it can't be here. Why not? If you want to answer, talking about the times of the Beis Hamikdash, can be. Well, Yehuda ben Shamua, Talmid of Meir. Yehuda ben Shamua was a Talmud of Meir. Rabbi was a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was a Talmud of Levan Hurkins. Rabbi Levan Hurkins was a Talmud of Rabbi Yechim Bezakah. And Rabbi Yechim Bezakah was the one who lived at the times of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. So by the time Rabbi Meir came along, Rabbi Yehuda Shamur came along, it was a couple of generations after the Beis Hamikdash. And according to Rav and Chanina, the Megillah's Tainus was cancelled. What are you adding New Yom Tovim for? But Meir lived way after. How do we know that Rabbi Yehuda ben Shamur was a student of Meir? Because it's now we learned in a Mishnah. There's two ways of learning Pshat in the Gemara here. Kalei zechuchis. I'll tell you the second way of Rashi, which tastes, which someone's showing him like better. Clays and chuchis, there's a metal kalim attract tumah from the Torah. Glass kalim is only midrabanan that attracts tumah. So what happens if you have a clays and chuchis, you have a glass keli shenikvu that was punctured. So it can no longer really serve as a utensil because there's a hole there and things pour right through. But the heitiv l'toichan eder, you blocked up that hole with lead. Lead has halachically has the same status as metal. The question is, now how do we view this glass keli? Without this piece of this block, the whole keli is useless. So this little blockage, this thing that you blocked it with, is now transformed back into a keli. So it's called davar maimed. This is what holds it together. Do we look at the davar maimed and we'll judge and we'll treat the keli, we'll classify the keli as per the davar maimed? In other words, now a metal keli or not? In other words, is this still a glass keli, which means it's only makabel tumah d'rabbanan, or is this a metal keli? It's makabel tumah mehater. That's how Rashi learns in the second shot. As Moshe Shem Rashi like Rashi's first shot, and the first shot is we're talking about an existing keli that was tummy. An existing metal keli that was tummy, and then it had a puncture, which we learned already loses its tumah, it's no longer tummy, and then you blocked it up with a piece of metal. Do we say that the old tumah came back, and therefore it's like nothing changed because you just blocked it up with the same material till now, so therefore the tumah came back and it's tummy, or do we say ponim chadoshes bolakam, that old keli is gone, that tumah is gone, and what now we have is a brand new keli? And so that's a machlekes. Now we learn clays chuchis glass keli shenikva that you punctured the hate to their neighbor and then you filled it with lead. Omar Hashem Gamil. Shimon ben Gamil said that Yehuda ben Shamua metamim shurmei. He holds that as tummy. Either he treats it like a metal keli because you look at the davar maimed and it's awesome. It's metamim mater. Or when you put that metal in, it brought back that tumah that was there before. But Rabbi Yehuda ben Shemua said it in the name of the mayor, which means he was a student mayor. That means he lived post the base of Mikdash, and yet he's making New Yom Tovim. So we see that it's clear that the Megillah's Tainas continued in perpetuity. You're right. Tanoi. Actually, there's a machlekes Tanoi where the Megillah's Tainas is continued, or that it's over. And that is the time we learned, so the Amoraim are actually having the same argument as tonight. The time we learned, the following day, because everything with time is Bein Bisman Beis Hamidrash Kayim existed, whether the Beis Hamidrash was in existence, Bein Bisman Ain't Beis Hamidrash Kayim, even now, Asudin, they are forbidden. Clearly, the mayor holds that we still have to abide by all those days that are Tevim and the days that you're not allowed to fast. That's included in his book of Megillus Titus. Rabbi Yesi says, "Bisman shebeis hamigdash kayim." The time of Beis existed. Asudin. Why? Because then it was a simcha, and therefore not only that day was treated as Yom Tov, but the day prior and post also is treated as Yom Tov, you're not allowed to fast and so on. Ein beis hamigdash kayim. Now that we no longer beis hamigdash, mutarin is permitted. It's no longer Yom Tov. In fact, it's a day of mourning. The hilchos of the law is botlu. It was cancelled. The hilchos of the law is led botlu. Wasn't cancelled. So you might understand, kasha hirsa, you contradict yourself. Is the halacha that the Megillus Tainus has been cancelled and all these Yom Tovim are existing in the day prior and post and the day itself? You're not allowed to fast and certain days you're not allowed to be maspid. Like kasha, kan b'Chanukah Purim, kan b'Shayim. Here's a Chanukah and Purim, and here we're talking about other days. Now, we'll talk already about in Gemara Tainus about Purim. Purim we do fast. We'll see later. Not because time says Yom Nikanor. We did add more fast in Shulchan Aruch is brought down as well. We have Chav Sivan. Chav Sivan is first of all, it says there. I'm trying to remember a few things. Friday, Parshas Chukas is supposed to be a fast day, a terrible day. In fact, that's a day that they burnt all the shasen. They took out all the shasen in France and they burnt them. And it says the reason Rabbeinu Yona's student, and I forgot his name, writes that the reason why the Shas was destroyed was burnt in public. So they added fast days even after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Was because of that they put the Rambam Mecherim because of the Mor Nevuchim. That's why it happened. They added also Chav Sivan, which in the Crusades Rabbeinu Tam declared should be a fast day, including the Kinnis. And then there's over time it sort of was forgotten. Then in Poland, after the Cossack Revolution, in Tov Ches and Tov Tes, 1648, they brought it back. until today, the Polish, many Polish Eden, they don't fast on Chav Sivan. They won't have a wedding on that day because they treat it as a sad day, And in fact, that's why some say we say Abba Rachamim on the month of Sivan. In Nusach Ashkenaz, you say Abba Rachamim, Shabbos Mavorchim, Ir and Sivan, because it's a serious time, it's a sad time. In other Nusachos, like Nusach Chabad, we don't say Rachmim in the ear, because in the entire month of Nisan we don't say Tachlim. And the rule is whenever you don't say Tachlim, you don't say Rachmim. So we don't say Rachmim in the Chodesh, not because it's Shabbos Mavorchim, but because it's the month of Nisan. But we do say Rachmim Shabbos Mavorchim of the month of Sivan, either because of Sfira, but it's coming to an end, and because Shleimah Gbala is not Sfira, or because of Chav Sivan. Anyway, let's continue. Says the Gemara, the Mishnah said, Al El, you send out Shluch in the month of El, they Rosh Hashanah, they send them out in the month of El, so they should know when Rosh Hashanah is. And how do they know Rosh Hashanah is? They assume, as we said Rashi before, and I'm seeing Gemara now, that in all probability El is only 29 days, and therefore they decided which day is Rosh Hashanah. But when it comes to Tishrei, they want to verify that, so they send out Shluchim again to tell them precisely what it is, so they know when Sukkot is and Yom Kippur. So an El Kurashana about Tisha Betakana Samaydus to fix up the Yom Tov. Says the Gemara, Kivin the Nafkalu El. Now that they went out in El, so we know exactly. And the way Gemara see right now, El is always 29 days. So Tisha Lamlu, what do you need to come back again for Tisha? We know El is 29 days. We know the third day is Rosh Hashanah. End of story. Says the Gemara, the Chitema. If you can tell me, Dilma Avru El. That perhaps they had to make that particular year El of 30 days, so therefore just to allay people's fears and to give them some more certainty. We sent out Shluchim again, Rosh Hashanah, Ezra from the times of Ezra and onwards, which means in Ezra's times, they did make sometimes 30 days, but from the time of Ezra and onwards, they never made El more than 29 days. So why did you? So we know clearly when Rosh Hashanah is. So why would you need to send Shluchim again in the month of Tishrei? Leimatzinu. So Gemara explains that's no proof. Leimatzinu we don't find Leitzach because then they seem they never needed it. But Leitzach, let's say there was a good reason that they had to add a day. We'll see later that when is it a good reason to add a day? You see tomorrow's Gemara is because if Yom Kippur falls out on a Friday and a Sunday, we don't want that to happen. Or if Yom Tov falls out on a Friday and Sunday, we don't want that to happen. So if they realize that's what's happening, sometimes they would add a day to El, so you push off Yom Tov to Monday, or Yom Kippur to Monday. Now, why don't we want Yom Tov or Yom Kippur to fall out on a Sunday? We might have a machlekes either because of Messiah. If Chas v'Shalom somebody passes away, right? Let's say Yom Kippur is on a Sunday. If somebody passes away Friday afternoon, they won't bury them till Monday, and that's not acceptable. It's a bizayin hames. Or because of Yerokaya, the vegetables, and that is that, remember, they had no refrigerators in those days. If you would have to cut, if Yom Tov falls out on a Friday or on a Sunday, you have to pick your vegetables prior to that. And by the time the second day comes along, it withers away and it's not fresh anymore and it's not tasty. So for either reason, so that's, but if they ever needed it, they would add a day. And the people therefore never knew with certainty that Elul Taka was 29 days. Maybe something happened, they realized that they need another day. So the Gemara, but Hamakalka Rosh Hashanah. By the time the Shluchim come out on Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah obviously already happened. So if they're going to come along and tell them, the correct date, comes out that retrospectively they kept the wrong day of Rosh Hashanah. And you're ruining the Rosh Hashanah for them. This way you just say, okay, that's what they accepted, let it be. Motive to interesting question. So what's the Gemara saying here? Because they ruined the Rosh Hashanah, therefore the Yidden should continue having the wrong day Yom Tov. So what's it now? Motive to calculate Rosh Hashanah v'leis calculate kula moedas. It is better that they should lose one day Rosh Hashanah. They realize that they celebrate the wrong day, but don't ruin a number of Yom Tov. You have the beginning of Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres. Get those right. They can now. I'll improve it to you. The Tani says, "Al Tishrei mipnei takana samayid." It is clearly Tishrei. What's our concern? Why do we send a shluchim? So they should know the rest of the Yom Tov when it is to fix up the rest of the Yom Tov. So we see clearly here we're ignoring Rosh Hashanah. Doesn't matter what they thought about Rosh Hashanah. We got to fix up the rest. So it comes out that it seems that they had Rosh Hashanah the wrong timing. Gemara's question was, so let it be. There was a time in history, the time of Sadir Gon, when Rabbeinu Meir came along and he decided that the way the calendar should be read or made is different than where Rav Saadia Gaon is, and for a number of years, and I don't remember how many years, that talks about so much in our history, the Yidden at Israel kept Yom Kippur a different day than the Yidden in Bavel and the rest of the world. They had a big argument how to work out the calendar. So eventually, Rav Saadia Gaon won, and that's the calendar we have today. Says the Gemara, Well, Kisle, but Chanukah, so they sent out shluchim on Kisle, so they should know exactly when Chanukah is. Well, Adar, they said not Adar, Purim. What happens if it came the month of Adar? Remember, we learned before that you could decide to add a leap year till the middle of Adar. So what happens the third day of Adar? They decide, you know what, we're going to add another Adar here. So it doesn't say in the Mishnah that if there was another Adar, they would send out shluchim to tell them about Adar Sheni. You have to know, because when Purim is, it doesn't mention it. Rosh Hashana Daf. It doesn't say anywhere in our Mishnah, but if they made a leap year, they would send out a shluchim again, the second Adar, so they should know exactly when Purim it is. If they have Purim, like Tanya Masnisin. Our Mishnah, like Tanya doesn't say. Must be the Masnisin, the like Rebbe. Must be that our Mishnah does not agree with the Rebbe. What do you mean does not agree with the Rebbe? What does Rebbe say? It follows. At the time we learned, Rebbe says, in this Abra Hashana. So they, the people didn't know about the Ibiyah in the beginning, so they all celebrated Purim, thinking that there's only one Adar that year. And then in the middle of Adar, in Beis Hamikdash, the Sanhedrin decided to add another month. Im nis Abra Hashana, if they add another month, Yotzin Afal Adar Hasheni, he said the Shluchim have to go out a second time. If they have Purim, Rebbe holds that Purim is going to be celebrated Adar Sheni, even though they celebrate already Purim and Adar Rishon, and therefore you need to send a shluchim. Our Mishnah obviously doesn't agree with it. So what does our Mishnah hold? That the Mishnah and Rebbe argue as follows. The Marsavar, one of them says, it's always so odd when the Gemara says the Mishnah argues with Rebbe, when Rebbe is the one who wrote the Mishnah, and he left it anonymous, he ruled against himself, and doesn't even bring himself as an opinion in our Mishnah, to that extent. Must have been very, very humble to be able to do that. The Marsava, one opinion is call mitzvahs hanoiges b'sheni, noiges b'rishon. That all the mitzvahs that we do the second Adar, which is Purim, if you did it in the first Adar, you already fulfilled your mitzvah. You don't have to repeat it again. So therefore, if you hold that, there's no point in sending out shluchim again. That's our Mishnah. There's no point in sending out shluchim again second Adar because they're already fulfilled the mitzvah of Purim. U'masav Rebbe holds kol mitzvahs hanoiges b'sheni ein noiges b'rishon. Doesn't help that you celebrated Purim the first Adar. Now that we have a second Adar, you need to celebrate Purim again. Therefore, they would send out shluchim. That's what it seems. Perhaps kuli alma mitzvahs hanoiges b'sheni ein noiges b'rishon. Perhaps everyone says you're not Yetzer Purim the first month, even though you thought it was Purim at the time, rightfully so. Now that Purim is the second Adar, you have to celebrate again. So how come our Mishnah doesn't say that you should send out shluchim and Adar? Over here, they arguing about ibur shana, whether when they added another month, how long was the first Adar? Was it fixed or not? In other words, if the first Adar is fixed, that's always a certain amount of days, 29 or 30, then there's no point in sending shluchim because you know exactly when the new Chodesh is. The Tanya we learn Kama Ibur Shana Lamed Yain. If you have an Ibur Shana, the first Adar is what is remember the first Adar is the extra month. Second Adar is the real Adar. That's why Purim is celebrated second Adar. The first Adar is the extra month. That extra month, it's called the Ibur Shana. That's the Ibur, not the second Adar. Is 30 days long. So since it's 30 days long, we always know when Rosh Chodesh is. So there's no point in sending out shluchim again, Adar Sheni, because everyone knew already when the Chodesh Adar is. Now that's quite difficult what we're saying right now, because Trace and all the Shemim ask, but how do they know it'll be a leap year? Didn't you have to send out shluchim to tell them, to inform them there's a leap year? So Trace says no, because Nisan they always sent out shluchim. And let's say this town used to get it 3 days into the month of Nisan, this town used to get it 5 days a month of Nisan. So the third day of Nisan comes by, the fifth day of Nisan comes by, and yet they didn't, no shluchim appeared. So they realized straight away, this must be Adar Sheni. And so therefore they'll know exactly, you have to make another Purim. They'll know because the fact that nobody came, they know there's another Purim. And they know exactly how long Adar Rishon is, 30 days, because there's a leap year. That's how they know there's a leap year, by the fact that nobody came. So Brashim and Gula says, Chodesh, it's a Chodesh, which is 29 days. So that's more things around Chodesh means 29. Otherwise, what's the argument? 29 days. So therefore, according to, and that's the argument. Rebbe says it's always fixed, so there's no point in saying shluchim, we know exactly what his Chodesh Hadasheni is. And our Mishnah holds it's not so fixed. And therefore, in other words, right now, our Mishnah holds it's only 29 days, and therefore you need shluchim. So you want to ask if it's 29 days, it's also fixed. Mishnah lamed, why even 30 days you have to send us shluchim? The yadi, one knows exactly when the Chodesh Hadasheni is. So Chodesh nami yadi. And if you tell me it's only 29 days, again, they know exactly when it is. But Papa says, man the Amma Chodesh, you misunderstood the word Chodesh. Chodesh means a month, but a month sometimes can be 29 and 30. It can be, it's volatile. Ratza Chodesh, Chodesh, Ratza Shloshim. That's why, if according to Rebbe, since you don't know if the other Rishon is 29 or 30 days, you need to send a shluchim on the you need to tell them. Otherwise, they won't know when Purim is. So our Mishnah holds that it was always fixed at 30 days of the Rishon, and therefore they know precisely when the Chodesh is. Says Gemara, hey, in Mishum Levi, Mishum Kahola Kadisha, the Yerushalayim, Mishum Levi said in the Aedis, in the name of the holy community of Yerushalayim, Al Shnei Adorim, when there's two others, Shemekachin Oisam B'Yom Ibureyan, that the two others, then you make the Kiddush, the 30th day is they're both short months. They're both 29 days. So the Yom Ibur, the day that you will make an extra month, that's the day they will declare as Chodesh. Okay, you know, before we said we had two opinions before. One opinion is there's always 30 days. That always the month is always 30 days, and what's it called? And the other one said sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 29. So here we're saying here that it's always a chassid. Every time it's a 29-day month, the 30th day was a new month. The 30th day was always a new month. Remember, so it's the third opinion, right? The first opinion is there's always 30-day months, and then there's Chodesh. Second opinion is sometimes this way, some moles on a chassid. And the third opinion is that what in the name of Kol Kiddush Yisraelim, that it's always 29 days. The memra, the chsaron avdin, malay avdin. So it seems to me clearly that's always 29-day months, short months, and never long month. Both others, other Rishon and other Sheni. La Fuke, and this comes to negate. This negates what Rav Nachman Chizah said. What did he say? Hey, Rab Samayim B'Shem Chagai Zechariah Malachi. Rav Nachman Chizah said in the name, and he said that Rab Samayim testified in the name of Chagai Zechariah Malachi. Al Shnei Adon, we're going 2 months about it. She'im Ratzal Asayis Shnei Malayin Oisin. If you want to make both 30 days, you can. It gets fluid. You want to make it both 29 days, you can. Echad mole be'echad chas. If you want to make 130, 129, the first month is 30 and the second one is 29. Oisin, they can do that as well. And that's actually what they did in exile. Umishum Rabbeinu Amru, but the name of our Rebbe, they say Rav, la'olam echad mole be'echad chas. Always, the first other is 30 days, the second other is 29 days. Unless you know otherwise, unless you know otherwise, that somebody from Israel came along and said that you should know that Bezdin made Rosh Chodesh, that the other Rishon normally will say that other Rishon is 30 days, unless you know somebody comes from Israel and says they should know this particular year other Rishon was only 29 days. They still used to make the month until Hillel, which was a number of years later, who made the calendar. They sent the letter Maluk. Other hasamach l'nisan, the other which is closest to Nisan. So it's a regular year, it's the other, and if it's a leap year, it's the second other. La'olam chasas, always 29 days. So a number of opinions there. And here he's saying this is like the first. If there's a leap year, the first month is a molik, 30 days, and the second month is a chasas. So the other before Nisan is always 29 days. Says Gemara, have a problem with that. Moshe Rav Nachman has a question. It says in our Mishnah, it says we'll see. Later, Shnei Chadoshim for 2 months out of the 6 months that we mentioned before. 2 months, it's so critical to know precisely what day it is. Mechalines Shabbos. You can be Mechal Shabbos. If the witnesses saw the Levana brand new, they can Mechal Shabbos. What do you mean? What way? They can go outside of the Tchum Shabbos to come to the Bezin and testify. Because these 2 months are vital to know, we need to know exactly when Yom Tov is. And why? Why are we allowing them an Eimah B'Chal Shabbos? Because they believe that if you want to set the new month, it's not enough to know that according to our calculations, we need to have a 29-day month or a 30-day month. You also need to have witnesses to come in live and tell us they saw the new moon. And then that's how you Mekadosh the Chodesh. So these 2 months, we allow the witnesses to come over, and travel to Chum Shabbos. Now, if you tell me, this version, the Gemara is as follows. If you can tell me Bishleima, at least it makes sense. That's zimnin mole, zimnin chassid, that's fluid. That sometimes it's mole, sometimes it's chassid. I understand. Therefore, we needed the Eidim to come because we don't know this other here. Or this L is a 29 days or 30 days. So therefore, we allow the Eidim to come and be Mechal Shabbos and travel to Chum, tell us precisely when the new month is so that we can declare it Rosh Chodesh, and therefore the Tevim will all fall out in the right times. Because if they don't come, we're going to declare Rosh Chodesh the following day, because we didn't have, since it's fluid, you don't know when Rosh Chodesh is, and nobody appeared to tell us when the new moon happened. So therefore, we're going to push it off, and it seems all the Tevim are incorrect. Yeah. But you can tell me, but the way you just said, Arukva just said that the month before Nisan is always a 29-day month, always. So why do we allow somebody Mechal Shabbos? Because even if they don't come, we're going to declare the 30-day as a Chodesh Nisan. So why are we allowing people to Mechal Shabbos for not? Aliyam, if you tell me Lo'ilam Chaser, others always 29 days. Amay Mechalin, why do we allow the agent to Mechal Shabbos? What for? For what end? We know anyway. We're anyway going to declare the Chodesh. So you want to know, it's very important. And you still need the Mechal Shabbos. You know why? The mitzvah lekadesh al hariyah. The mitzvah, even when they knew precisely when the Chodesh will be, the mitzvah is to mekadesh based on the testimony of Eidim. But it says, HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodashim. And we learn, we'll see, kazeh re'eh b'kadesh. See this? That's what you should see, and then make it holy. And then sanctify it as a new month, declare the new month. So we need Eidim. That's why we let them Mechal Shabbos. So there's no question on Marukah, because you're right. It's always 29 days, but we still want Eidim to come so that we can base it on this testimony, not on our calculations. That's one version. Ikidam, the others say, I'm going to Afanaman. In fact, I'll bring a raya. Al Shnei Chadoshim. 2 months, Mechal Shabbos, on Nisan Vatisha. Now let's talk about Nisan. If you're going to tell me that other is always 29 days, that makes sense. Because of this version, on the contrary, because others always 29 days, we allow the Eidim to come. Why? The mitzvah, we know we have to declare the we have no choice. We must declare the Chodesh Nisan on the 30th day. But we need the testimony of the witnesses to come. So we have to enable them to come and let them Mechal Shabbos, travel at Chum, so that we can we need to make Rosh Chodesh today. We cannot push it off by a day because this other is always 29 days. So therefore we invite the Eidim to come even on Shabbos. Because the mitzvah of Kaddish Aliyah. Aliyam, if you can tell me that Zimnin Mola, Zimnin Chassid, there's no real special day that has to be Rosh Chodesh. You can make them full, you can have other 29, you have 30. So what's the big deal? Let them come tomorrow and wait till tomorrow. There's no rule that has to be on the 30th day. It can be the 31st day. So why allow the Eid Mechal Shabbos? Amay Mechalin, why Mechal Shabbos? Na'abre ha'idna. Decided, you know what, this year we're going to make other 30 days. When the Kachal on Sunday will be, because the Bezin can decide whenever they want to make a Chodesh. I feel Mazidim. And Shagin. So Mora says that's not really a raya. I can argue and say that the reason why we allow them Mechal Shabbos is it really could be 29 days, 30 days, whatever it is, and we still allow the Eidim Mechal Shabbos. Why? Because we're talking about a case where Friday was the 30th day. So therefore, we have no choice but to be Kaddish Shabbos. We didn't have any witnesses coming on Friday, so then obviously we have no choice. The next day, following day, is Chodesh. But we need to wait for the Eidim to come and give us the testimony so that we can declare the Chodesh. Because you need Eidim has to be Kaddish Apiriya, and that is why we allow here to Mechal Shabbos. So no raya. It could be that it's fluid. Other could be 29 and 30 days. But we're talking about a case where we reached the 30th day already on Friday. So we know we have no choice but to declare Shabbos as Chodesh, but we're the Eidim. So it says, Shabbos, and you're right. What we're talking about. The Ikla Yom Shloisha Echad B'Shabbos. Shabbos the 31st day, and we have no Breda. We have to declare the Chodesh. But Mitzvah L'Kadosh Al Riyah, the Mitzvah L'Kadosh based on Riyah. That's why we have to wait. Okay, we'll stop over here and we'll continue with tomorrow.